We're continuing with finding the zeros, but we're going in somewhat the reverse order. What I'm given in this particular problem, and it's number 22 on your worksheet, is I'm given the zeros. The zeros are -2, 0, and 1, and they're customarily written from least to greatest and in set notation. But here what I want to do is I want to write my final answer in factored form, giving these zeros. So I'm going to go step by step in reverse order. So right here, I have that x is -2, 0, and 1. So I'm going to separate that. X is -2, x is 0, and x is 1. Now I'm trying to find that where x is 0. This is already set up for me. So I want to set each one of these equal to 0. So when I bring this -2 over, I end up with x plus 2 equals to 0. So there's a factor. And then I bring this over, and it's x minus 1 equals to 0, and there's my third. I'm going to set up kind of formally like we did in the screen before. Y equals, if you have x by itself, it's just customary to write that by itself up front, as if it was just a monomial, and then your binomials. Then I have x plus 2 and x minus 1. It doesn't really matter the order that you write those in because multiplication is commutative, but if you have it, it's just kind of nice and easy to write it from the left to the right, but do try to write your monomial first. In the second one, I'm just going to pull this up and look at them together. I have on number 23, -5, -5, and 1. What you should notice is that I have two -5s. Now, instead of writing that two different times, because I'll come out with the same answer, I'm just going to write it once. I know that x is equal to -5 and x is equal to 1. So I'm finding the zeros. I'm going to set that equal to 0. So I have x plus 5 equals to 0. Bring the 1 over. X minus 1 is equal to 0. So here are my two terms. So I have y equals, what I need to remember is that when I'm looking at x plus 5, that I had it two different times, so that's a multiplicity of 2, which is that exponent squared. And then I'm just going to bring in the other binomial, x minus 1. So this would be your final answer right here, showing that right here, there's two of these -5s, there's two of those zeros, so that's going to be my exponent. I'm going to pull up number 26 and 27. Starting with number 26, we have x equals -1, -2, and -3. So I'm going to set x equal to each one of those. After a few of these, you shouldn't really have to do all the steps. If you do, work every step. The -1 comes over, and I have x plus 1 equals to 0. I have x plus 2 is equal to 0. And bring in the -3, x plus 3 is equal to 0. So these are my zeros, x plus 1, x plus 2, and x plus 3. When I go back and look, nothing repeats, so I do not have a multiplicity other than 1. So my answer would be y equals, and I'm just going to write these from left to right. Again, it doesn't matter the order, just looking at it from left to right, so that would be my factored form. Number 27, I do have a repeat here. I have two zeros, so I know I'm going to have a multiplicity. I know that I'm going to have an exponent. So when I write these out, I have x is equal to 0 right here, and x is equal to 2 from here. So there's my term. Bring the 2 over, so I have x minus 2 is equal to 0. These are my two zeros right there. So when I put this in factored form, I know I have x by itself, but I have that two different times. So that's going to be x squared. It has a multiplicity of 2, or an exponent of 2, times x minus 2, and that's my answer in factored form. Now, in the bottom down here, I brought in two different examples because I want you to see this written in as many ways as possible. And in this, I'm probably going to work up and down. So this first one, I have x is equal to 2 with a multiplicity of 3. I kind of think that if I write that, I'm confused where I want to put that. If I write this, it's going to look more like this. 2 with a multiplicity of 3. It could be written different ways on your test or your quiz. So if you see these are the same thing. X equals 2 with a multiplicity of 3, or either in set notation here. I'm going to work up. So I have that x is equal to 2. I'm going to bring this over, and I have x minus 2 is equal to 0. So there's my term right here, my 0. Since I know it has a multiplicity of 3, when I write this in factored form, x minus 2 instead of writing that 3 different times, I just know that it's going to be a cubed, or the multiplicity would be 3. Working downward, for this one right here, it says x is 0 with a multiplicity of 3 and 4 with a multiplicity of 2. Another way you may see this written is 0 with a multiplicity of 3, 4 with a multiplicity of 2. I just really want you to see how it can be written. So here's my factors, 0 and 4. So when I write this out, I know that x is equal to 0 and x is equal to 4. There's my term, my 0. Bring the 4 over. X minus 4 is equal to 0, so here's my second term. When I go to write this in my final answer, I have y equals. Again, if it's a monomial, I want to write it first. So I go back and look. Does 0 have a multiplicity? Yes. It has a multiplicity of 3, so that's going to be x cubed. Then I have the binomial x minus 4. Does this have a multiplicity? Yes. It has a multiplicity of 2, so that's going to be a squared. So this is how you would write that in factored form in your final answer. So the video before, the screen before, and this video covers zeros in multiplicity in factored form.